WWE TV talk? You want to go there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Royal Rumble results. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about recent happenings in WWE TV, including the most highly anticipated premium live event of the year, Royal Rumble. And although the Florida crowd wasn't quite as lively as we hoped, the in-ring action was. Lee, what was your initial takeaways, thoughts, and feelings about this year's 2024's Royal Rumble?
Well, I said it on the podcast before, but I think this Royal Rumble, above most I can remember in my entire life, had the best build. They built up the Royal Rumble so well, gave us multiple possibilities, multiple personalities who could win. And then, if you know, this was WWE's most chaotic and craziest week in history leading up. They announced the Netflix deal, accusations
The Rock has
were
been
leveled,
added to the board.
Rock was added
at
to the
TKO
board.
Endeavor, which is really cool to have in-ring talent on their board.
Yeah. So that made the story even crazier going into it.
The Netflix deal we talked about last week.
Yeah.
The Hunter being fully at the helm and content and creation without any outside interference, without anyone dabbling their hand in the storyline. So we got to see what the future, what might be possible in this new era. We're calling it a new era, because
it is.
It will never be like it was again. It will never be like it was again.
Absolutely. Even more so than the TKO merger, which that alone was the biggest shift. It's like we take for granted because we're living through all this, but documentaries years from now are going to talk about this year, this last 12-ish months were the single biggest shift in wrestling history ever. Period.
Right. And I would say this is as monumental as when Turner sold WCW. I mean, I think this is bigger. And
Agree.
Well, okay, Rumble. Let's talk about actual Rumble content. The crowd stunk. The women were awesome. And the men's match was, I think, very anticlimactic. At least that would be my quick soundbite of it. Disagree or agree with that?
No, you hit my sentiments exactly. The Women's Rumble started big with the return of Naomi. You had Jordynne Grace come into the mix, which, by the way, I know Triple H kind of downplayed let's not call this a stupid forbidden door. I get it.
He said, I'm not going to even think about what doors are or are not allowed to be walked through and forbidden. Yeah. It was really cool. That was actually a really good presser. Really good. Yeah.
From that side. Yes. But yeah, I agree. So, I mean, that was this is, and the fact that, when Mickie James came out with the TNA Knockouts title, it was well, that's Mickie James. That's a WWE personality. This is someone who's never been in WWE, who is a hot indie star, who is now TNA world champion. And they announced her as the TNA women's champion, Knockouts champion.
And the person there was no hiding it. Feuding with Naomi. There was a recent feud.
She took the title from her.
Incredible. To see that crossover and that cross promotion. Really cool. Hey, let me ask you this. Is Mickie James married to the current commissioner of SmackDown?
Yes. Nick Aldis and Mickie James in real life, IRL.
Okay. I thought so, but I've never looked that up and I've never thought to ask you that. But when you brought her up, I thought, oh yeah, is she? Because all this
I honestly thought she was coming back
from nowhere. Right. I'd never heard his name before. He was given
NWA World Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis.
No idea who he is.
Famously feuded with Billy Corgan, Nick Aldis.
He's very handsome. He's very tall. He has a great physique, and he has a great demeanor on SmackDown. He's pushing Roman Reigns around. He's pushing him around. It's incredible. I love it. He's been a really cool ad into that dynamic of
Agreed.
Heyman does what he wants. Well, suddenly
Right.
Aldous doesn't take no guff from the
He's the
bloodline.
brick wall. Yeah, I
I
love
really
it.
like it.
I love it. I honestly thought Mickey James was going to be I thought she was coming back. I mean,
Same.
I thought, yeah. So
That's
whatever
why I
there.
asked
So
if that was her husband, because I
right.
assumed it was, and I assumed
Yeah.
I would see her in the Rumble.
Right.
I did not. So it was like,
Right.
that's odd.
But the women's rumble was so good. I was not disappointed at all that she didn't. I mean, the
No
women's rumble was
disappointments.
booked to perfection. And
It really
especially
was.
the thread that they wove, the storytelling, like long-term storytelling is Triple H's bread and butter. But even within the Rumble match, they had this long-term thread where once Nia Jax came out, every single powerful woman tried to
Right.
lift Nia Jax, and every one of them failed. Right. That was the thread. And then the debut of Jade Cargill. And
Oh, that
again,
was incredible pop for
booked
Jade
to
Cargill.
perfection
Yes.
because she picked up
Yeah.
Nia. And I mean, the reality is like Nia almost looked like she was sandbagging her. She didn't like prop
Yeah.
herself
Oh, I
up and push to
know.
get up in there.
Nia
And
was
Jade
just
still
dead
just was like,
weight. That
get
was
out of
so
here.
weird.
Yeah, it was
Nia did
awesome.
not. So typically, those lifts, just like in dancing, when you do a
Yeah.
lift, the partner jumps to assist the lift.
Yeah.
Nia went limp noodle on her. Just, I was like,
Yeah.
what is she doing? She's
Yeah.
making this twice. That's not the way you work in this business. You put
Yeah.
over your opponent, right? To
Right.
demonstrate their strength. You assist them in
Right.
demonstrating those feats of strength. And everyone in the locker room has helped Nia get over with her moves and her
Yeah.
spots. And you're like, that was kind of a Hulkster type like botch. Like, I
Yeah.
ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
not laying down for you. I was
Brother.
like, it seemed
Sister.
intentional. Maybe it wasn't. Let's assume the best.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't intentional. But that was like,
It's just
she didn't do her
another
any favors.
botch.
She didn't do her any favors at all.
Right. Well, I mean,
And
she kind of did though, because it made Jade look twice as powerful. Because even
at a
though,
risk
like,
to
it would
her
have been look
back
great if she just went,
muscles.
"Ugh."
No,
She just said, Nia, you are going up, and I am making. So the fact that Jade didn't win was
I think
great.
both of them, I
The
think
fact
both
that
of
she
their
got that
bodies were in
spot was
danger in that
better.
moment. I think because she couldn't land right and Jade
Yeah.
couldn't lift her right. So I think they were both actually, that was a problematic lift. I really think it was. Like
Yeah,
when you're
could be.
weightlifting, you don't lift like that. You
Right.
don't just pick up dead weight with your
Right.
middle back. That's how you get
Right.
injured. Right.
Yeah,
So
you're right. And then your pick to win the Rumble,
she
she
did
did
it.
it. From
I
number
can't,
3, the
I
Ric Flair
cannot
spot.
believe that they actually told the story that was worth telling. I like part of me thought, oh, Charlotte Flair's gonna be number 30. She's coming in.
Oh, she's injured.
Well, just
Like
whatever, right?
real injured.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about what is that? That's a good indication of this, Lee. This is what I really wanted to say on this episode is that there were very few surprises in this Rumble. And I think it was the brand's way of reestablishing trust with an audience who had come to expect they're going to blow it and I'm going to hate it. What they do next is going to stink and it's going to be forced on me. And I don't want to see that. They actually did the right thing, the good thing. They told the story that was worth telling and they didn't screw it up. And like examples, Jimmy Uso didn't run out in a hoodie with a crowbar and like, or that kind of thing. Right.
Right.
Which always over the last 10 to 20 years has been, I think it's caused a little bit of, and I hate to overuse this term, but kind of like PTSD. Like you wince to think this is so cool. It actually could happen. And then it doesn't. And then it doesn't. And I
the
think
booking in our heads is always better than what they do, except for now.
And it's always been because of one ego. And that ego can no longer flex the ego. I actually interrupted when you brought it up earlier, but that's the new era. In case you're wondering what we're alluding to, the new era in in professional wrestling is it is no longer dominated by one egomaniac at the top.
Yeah. One voice that can overrule any plan
And
with
his voice
something
is now
else.
silenced. And potentially with these allegations that are against him, we're not going to get into those because they're too triggering and shocking. And we want to see justice happen in a court of law. And I think that will happen. And yet, whoa, right? Whoa. This is not the time for hot takes, but I think this is
Right.
a really cool time for optimistic, keeping an eye on the horizon about what's possible for the future of this industry that we love,
Yeah.
and are now glad that is free of the overbearing, dominance of one meddlesome chief executive officer.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that, though,
Like moving right along.
yeah, I mean,
We don't want to
what's
go
out there is
there.
out there,
And we don't want to
you can
go
look it
there.
up.
We don't want to go
So
there. We certainly don't want to, at the risk of hurting. We just don't want to hurt anyone.
yeah,
This is a type of a subject that if we openly discussed, it would cause a lot of people a lot of pain.
yeah,
And so we do this show because we love wrestling, and we do this show because we love the game that we play about wrestling. And I think there's a lot of hope in this new era. And I think we
yeah,
saw that by Cody winning the men's Royal Rumble.
yeah,
What? What?
yeah. I know
Too good
you
to be
on the
true?
last episode, you called out that you didn't want him to win the Rumble. You don't want him to finish the
Well,
story, which I thought was weird,
not
but
true. So I'm conflicted, right? Because I don't necessarily think the culmination to finish the story is Cody Roman 2, right?
Disagree. Yeah,
That's what I tried to
sure.
get
That's
into with
fair.
you. And now that actually is it in jeopardy with CM Punk's real life injury?
Yeah.
Um, does that mean Seth won't have an opponent? And is Seth injured even more? Like,
Oh,
what
he
is
is, but
actually
yeah.
happening in the
Right.
world of Raw right
Yeah.
now? This elimination chamber in Perth, you'll hear more about it, but like for months they've leaked out that The Rock was part of their
Yeah.
promotion and that he's the draw. He's the reason you should buy a ticket. And it's an Australian audience that we don't know, right, how they're being marketed to. And yet Australian members of this champions community of like, hey, did you see this? Did you hear about this? This is what we're seeing in
Yeah.
Australia. They're saying
Right.
The Rock is coming to Elimination Chamber and they're
Right.
marketing
But
it.
Roman isn't. So
Right.
that's an interest. Well, he wasn't. Now with maybe some of the changes, who knows? Maybe they have to pull that, hey, emergency flag on the play. Can you
Yeah.
come be the head of the table for us, Roman? Who knows?
I
But
don't think they know what they're going to do yet. I really
how could
don't.
they? This
Yeah.
is
I
the
don't.
one weakness of long-term booking like this is when the catastrophes happen, and they will, you have to be able to pivot. So I think this actually shows Triple H's booking ability this next couple months better than anything else in the past,
Too
because
many
he had
guys went to
players on the
SmackDown.
board, and now all of a sudden those players were taken out of his control.
And too many
So,
guys went to SmackDown.
what
Too many.
do you mean?
Like if Rollins needs an opponent at Mania,
Oh, it's
his
Gunther.
his
It's
best
Gunther.
no, like LA Knight, right? Or
Yeah.
Randy Orton, the guys that were in this match at Rumble against Roman were all SmackDown and are legitimate main event material at Mania.
Right.
But they're all on
Right.
SmackDown. And only
Yeah.
one of them can face Roman, but maybe
Right.
it's going to be Cody from Raw, right? So what the heck do you
Yeah.
do with the Raw belt? And what do you do
Right.
with all the guys that are main eventers on SmackDown?
Yeah.
And you got
There
Jey
are many.
Uso over on Raw, and they're calling it a main event, but he's not a main event draw.
Right.
Maybe he'll fight his brother in the mid card. and it'll be
That's the
memorable.
goal, I think, is Uso versus Uso. I mean, I think that's where they're going, but yeah. I mean, you got a point there. And I mean, I think it kind of highlights, so as good as the women's rumble was, I was bored out of my mind during the men's rumble.
Yeah,
Like Andrade coming back was neat, but he's not one that I was like, ooh, there's a top tier new infusion of
right.
power into
And
this
because Santos
rumble.
Escobar is
So,
doing everything that Andrade should have been doing in WWE.
right.
So they're like, well,
Yeah.
what do we do with Andrade?
Right. I mean, he's good, and they can Triple H can. I mean, he booked him well before. He can book him well again. Zelina, maybe comes in the mix. Maybe he's LWO. Maybe he's not.
Is he going to
They
go
can play off
face
that.
LWO, be like the
Who
leader of the
knows?
LWO? Like,
Could be, and or maybe he joins Santos and they become this new heel team or whatever. But
so
other than
weird.
that, Andrade was great. But I think I at least fantasy booked so many more interesting to me options. Like
Right.
in particular, Matt Cardona was on an episode of This Is Awesome recently. And his wife is Chelsea Green in real
His
life,
wife stole the show at the
Oh
Rumble,
yeah,
by the way.
that was again
Chelsea
women's
was the
rumble
most
best ever.
entertaining thing of the whole night, I think.
Oh yeah, her
She
getting
really was.
smashed back to back to
Double
back.
smashed. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it was hilarious. I loved it. But I thought Matt
Yeah.
Cardona was going to be in there. I mean, there was a few where I just thought like, ooh, if this person, like even Ty Dillinger coming out at number 10 again, that
They
didn't
teased,
happen.
could Hogan come
So
back at one
they
point?
teased
They
Hogan.
teased because it's
Yeah,
in
even in the
Florida.
intro to that show.
Right. They
Yeah.
teased, could Taker be in the Rumble at one point? They were
Yeah.
teasing. None of it happened.
Right. And so
And
Cody comes out at 15. Everybody before that was very mid
yeah,
card.
yeah.
Not
Jimmy J1 was
uh,
cool. 1-2.
yeah,
Jimmy J
that was good. That
that
was a
was a
good
very
start.
cool
Good
start.
start. Yeah.
Theory
Yeah.
continues to be the heel that intervenes and interferes with all good storylines.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't super pumped there. I mean, to be quite honest, somebody said it, I think it was Wrestle Talk, that this was always a 4-horse race, right? It was always Cody, CM Punk, Drew, and Gunther. That was always where it was going to be.
Right.
And they're right. That was the only four that, I mean, yay, Sammy was number 30, but those were the only four that actually moved. And this could have been the fatal four-way.
Think
That
about
could have been the fatal four-way
how
instead.
terrible would a Mania
So,
Raw title be with McIntyre in it?
yeah.
It would
I
be
like Drew.
Be
I
horrible.
like Drew. His promo against CM Punk
He's not
was
a draw.
amazing.
He's not a draw
Oh,
anymore.
I disagree,
Like,
but
do you
I mean
think this is my fear? Here's my legitimate fear. The night one of WrestleMania main event will be some cacophony of triple threat or four-way of like Drew, Sammy, Gunther, and Seth, or something
Yeah.
just completely not a story, not not WrestleMania worthy. There's not gonna be a WrestleMania moment with that. Unless Priest does a second heist of the century or something. Like, make it interesting. Please make it interesting. And I don't know that they can. I don't know that they can with the injuries. I don't know that they can.
Well, I mean, that is the title's cursed. I mean, CM Punk, the story was there for 10 years. I never got to main event WrestleMania. This was going to be the one, right? For
Did you watch Raw this week? Did you get to catch Raw this week? Rollins is begging Cody, pick me, pick my title,
pick the consolation belts.
Well, no, and I'm going, they're starting to turn. They're starting to turn it towards Cody, Seth, and what I had been saying for months, Rock Roman.
Rock versus Roman.
Rock Roman is the story that will sell merchandise and tickets and toys, and it will be a Hollywood production of twists and turns, and it will be the night 2 main event that we will always remember. I think that's what the build is, and Cody might finish the story at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and I know that's what you said last week and stuff too. I remain on the fact that two things. One, Seth Rollins has never been an interesting champion to me. That belt has always
Yeah,
felt
he's
like a
horrible.
secondary. I consider it lower in prestige than the Intercontinental title by light years, right?
I don't,
Gunther has
well,
made the
that's
Intercontinental
wild.
title the
That's a
second
wild take.
best.
And I'm full of wild takes. That's a pretty wild take.
That's a wild thing. Seth Rollins is not interesting to me in any way,
No,
shape, or
that's
form. I
true.
have
That's a
never
very
liked him
vanilla
as the
take.
this
Agreed.
champion, this
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
So him getting injured, him saying Cody, and so with Cody, I mean the real thing is I am. We'll see how I feel on the other side of Mania. But if he doesn't finish the story against Roman at Mania this year, I don't know that I can ever believe in Cody again. And I had to be won over.
It's
I had to be
crazy.
shown that he is good. But now it's like, well, he's clearly not the guy. He's going for the C level belt now if he does this.
Oh
Like,
man. The
I
sea level
just,
belt's the US heavyweight belt. The Logan Paul title is the C title. I
yeah.
don't know. I
So
don't know.
maybe that's why they do it because they want to elevate the title and show that it is. I mean, other hot take. I mean, I've heard like Wrestle Talk did a list of the worst title designs ever. To me, aside from the big winged eagle belts, not the one Roman has now because the colors are ugly, but the black WWE title with just the big logo, my favorite belt design of all time. This world heavyweight title right now, I like it better than the old big gold belt.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not afraid of brand integration. Like it looks good. It is a
It
very
does.
so this is probably of the current titles that are out right now. Seth's belt is my favorite looking belts. But
For
if
those of
Cody
you
goes for
who
it, it's him giving up and saying, I couldn't do it. It's him saying, you know what? I wasn't powerful enough. Roman is truly all he said he
bro,
was.
that's
I can't
crazy.
do it.
That's
I have
crazy,
bowed
bro.
down
That's
to
crazy.
Roman Reigns.
Well, the good
That's
thing
to
is we
me.
don't have to agree. We don't have to agree on everything.
That's
That's the
right.
good news.
That's right.
Also, if you're not privy to this, anytime WWE changes the look of the belt, they're
Mm,
trying to communicate this is a new era
yeah.
of wrestling. We're in a new reality, a new world that we're
Yeah.
building. And I
Tag team
think
belts,
what
please.
yeah, and I think that's what we started with. Separate those belts. Good grief, and then
Yeah.
redesign them after you separate them.
Right.
But I think after we started this whole segment with like this is a hopeful era. This is
It
the
is.
best era. So many good things are on the horizon, and so let's end with that.
Yeah.
We don't have any clue what's going to happen in Perth at Elimination Chamber in 1 month's time. But for now, I am very, very happy with the road that we're on, and I'm even okay with not knowing how it's going to work
Yeah.
out. Like but I trust Paul, Hunter, Hurst, Hemsley, Levesque to get it right.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
think
all for me.
he's got his back against the wall, and I think he could do a great job. I still think Cody winning shows a commitment to Paul's like Triple H's plan that he is sticking with what he said a year ago. But yeah, the fact that there's been so many curveballs actually really can make the title interesting. And you mentioned like we don't want a triple threat for the world, but Seth getting to have the belt going into Mania is his dream. And as much as I don't like him as a champion, he deserves that. He has earned it. But then you put Gunther and Drew, and Gunther pins Drew again.
That's horrible.
Gunther never loses the Intercontinental title, but relinquishes it because he's the world champion. And he always has that from this point forward to say, I was the Intercontinental champion that never got beat.
I can see
The
that.
ultimate warrior of our generation, people.
Oh gosh. So I'm supposed to hate him, right? Is what you're saying? Like he's just horrible.
Hot
Oh,
takes all around, guys.
yeah.
Hot
Well, close us
takes.
out today, Lee. Close us out. We've had a great time together.
Well, thank you for being a part of this. If you didn't know, if you're only here for the WWE part, we are Scopely content creators for the WWE Champions mobile app. It is the best all-time WWE game, period. And it's on
Yeah.
its 7th anniversary, and it is an amazingly generous time to hop into the game. So consider that. Hop in, download the game. Otherwise, thanks for being a part of this community. We appreciate you guys, and we hope that your Royal Rumblings were as beneficial and fruitful as they could have been. We'll see you next time.